Yeah. So speaking of the Bucks, might be a transition to some of the trades we didn't get to. So the Bucks acquired Kyle Kuzma
Yep.
from the Wizards. I'm trying to find the exact details. Unfortunately, this list is way too big. So it was a three-team trade, and where you mentioned part of the trade earlier that the Knicks get DeLon Wright, but so the Bucks got Kuzma, Jericho Sims, two second-round picks. The Wizards get Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson. They get a first-round pick swap, and the Knicks get Cass. And the Spurs also, sorry, as a 14 trade, Patrick Baldwin Jr. I think for me, my issue with the Bucks, and maybe you'll agree with me as a Clippers fan, is that Doc Rivers is their coach. Like I
There's,
think, like I. And I'm also extra tilted because of the fact Darvin Ham is their assistant coach. So like I'm worried about the coaching quality, and that's not
yeah,
even just a hater thing. Is like I don't think Doc Rivers is a good coach. He keeps getting bailed out. I think by
yeah,
good quality talent and a Celtics roster that he should have taken to more than one championship back in the
I
day.
agree.
I'm always worried about that. Giannis is currently hurt, which I think is an issue. But the good thing about Kuzma, I don't think he's not as good as the paycheck that he gets, but he is another ball handler that can take pressure off of Dame and Giannis.
Kuzma.
Dame is having a great season. Like Dame is like last year, I was really worried. Like, oh God, are the wheels starting to fall off? No, I think it was just being in a new environment. He's just so good. But yeah, that's where I'm worried about the Bucks.
I
Any
agree.
other thoughts about this trade? I think for Kuzma, I think it's probably good. You lose Middleton, who I think is a good glue guy, but he is getting older and hasn't played a lot. And it's good for the Knicks getting DeLon Wright, I think, too.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Middleton's been injured a lot in the last couple of seasons. Like, I don't think he was doing anything for that team. This is like Kuzma's chance to get some redemption. So I don't know if he's going to take it or not, but I do think this is maybe an opportunity that one might not have thought he would have gotten. So I'd love to see if he does something with it. Other than that, honestly, yeah, I mean, I agree. I want Dame to do well. Like, I want Dame to win a ring. I love when small market teams do well. So seeing the Bucks do well would be fun too. And Giannis is hilarious, but I just don't see unless like something really changes, especially like unless they get a new coach. Honestly, I don't see them like winning.
Yeah, I agree. So in terms of some other trades, so it's funny, we both didn't mention the team that is the second seed in the West right now, the
It's wait,
Grizzlies.
other Grizzlies. Yeah,
And I wonder if it's for the same reason that I did, is I don't know what they did at the trade deadline that made any sense for a team that's second. They traded away Marcus Smart, which like, okay, maybe Marcus Smart's not who you got from the Celtics, but then
yeah,
they traded away Jake LaRavia, who is like a good player on a very small contract. Like it makes
yeah.
like it made no it's like you hit like it felt like two trades you make if you're not in contention but you're the second
You get
seed in the West. So just thought that was super weird, at least for me personally. What
and
were your thoughts?
yeah. I think the Grizzlies to me have like struck me a little bit. I think the best example I can give off the top of my head is like the pre-Kawhi Raptors. Like they have talent, like they have good pieces, but they can't put it together. And then I don't know if the Raptors did this part, but I do think there's a bit of like weird trades happening where like why did that happen? Or there were there are people in the market that you probably could have gone after that you didn't go after. So like what are you doing over there? I also think that they're in a bit of a slump right now too. I know they're going to be playing the Clippers on Wednesday, which I'm planning to go watch the game. The only reason I know they're playing,
Nice.
and I like don't see them having the upper hand in that matchup. And so to me, like I think the Grizzlies are in a weird spot being number two. Like I think they will be top two or three in the West coming into the playoffs, but I don't think that they're going to make it further than the second round. Like I just don't see them being good enough this season.
Yeah, they gave him the same vibes as when they were the second or third seed the last time. Is like
Yeah.
they killed it, and then the Lakers like trounced them in the playoff. That was like one of the most satisfying playoffs series as a Lakers fan, because there's lots of bad blood with Dylan Brooks, but that's just Dylan Brooks being Dylan Brooks. But it was
Yeah.
just like, oh, you're the second seed, and so that's again maybe another reason why I worry about the Grizzlies, is they've done this before and it didn't have
Mhm.
good results. Uh,
Exactly.
Another trade, you mentioned the Raptors, pre-Kawhi Raptors, and they did a trade where they got Brandon Ingram
Mhm.
from.
Interesting.
But kind of with you, I don't know. Like there are a couple teams at the trade deadline that made a lot of moves that make sense, right? I think all the teams we mentioned, but the Bucks, I don't know how much it moves the needle, but I don't mind it. Okay, you get rid of
Yeah.
Middleton, you get Kuzma, but like I don't know what the Raptors are trying to do. Like you have
I don't
Scotty,
know.
like I can't tell if they're trying to build for the future or not. Like it's just like I don't know what getting Brandon Ingram does for you. Like you're not
Yeah.
competing this year.
Like you
Like
should
I
be trying to compete. Yeah, because Scotty Barnes, he's there. I think he's hurt or something like that from there.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's like he's not a real piece right now, is what I'm trying to say. So like, what are
Mhm.
you doing? Maybe I mean, I know Brandon Ingram's like still kind of young, so maybe the idea is like, okay, they're trying to get the chemistry up and like building something for next year. But I just don't see why they're doing it this way. Like it doesn't make sense for either side. Like I think Brandon Ingram would benefit an actual contender more, or even like a kind of contender than the Raptors, who to me are not even a kind of contender. They're just like not in it.
Yeah, they're not in it at all. So yeah, I agree. It just was a weird trade. We talked about the Jimmy Butler trade. I guess maybe we could talk about the Heat perspective of the Jimmy Butler trade. So for those who,
Yeah.
I won't go through it. It was a 5-team trade to make this happen because like if you don't follow the NBA, like a lot of other teams will get involved in these big trades that have big contracts because like money is just very like contract and trades are very complicated, more than we can ever understand. And as much as we clown on GMs, that's why they're getting paid the work they do to
Yeah.
build a 5-team trade that works for 5 different franchises. But
Yep.
the Heat got Andrew Wiggins and Kyle Anderson from the Warriors, and they also get a first-round pick from the Warriors for this year, and
Right.
Davion Mitchell. And I think losing Andrew Wiggins is a hard thing for the Warriors. I mean,
Oh,
Steve
no.
Kerr cried at it, like at this, Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, you lose him. And I think he's
Yeah.
good. I don't know if he's a needle mover, but he's a person like, I
He's
don't
good.
think any team is sad if you have Kyle Anderson on your team. At least I wouldn't be. So I think the Heat, given the fact how much Jimmy Butler wanted gone,
Yeah.
actually really made out, because like part of the issue
Yeah.
you have with like a player trading a player like Jimmy Butler, you do have like of course the
Get down.
baggage, but like when a player commands that much power, they can really dictate the turns of things, and that makes it very
Yeah.
hard to negotiate. And sometimes that's why when we look back at trades, like you'll see the star player and the return is not enough because it's just like, in order to convince the player to go to that other, it is just like it's very rarely in the team's favor. But I
Yeah.
wonder now with like the new cap rules and stuff like that, we're starting to see the stars lose little bit of power, right? That's not
Yeah.
even a comment on the Luka trade where Luka and AD knows it's happening. But I wonder
Yeah.
if that's also, this trade is a signal of maybe a slight power shift in the NBA, where the Heat aren't just screwed because they have to trade Butler away.
Exactly. And they're also not screwed in terms of like they have to trade Butler to a certain team. Like there was talks that Butler only wanted to go to the Suns, and it's like, oh well, you don't get to decide that. I think the Heat. I think the Heat did do well for the situation they were in. I also think the Heat are in a position that doesn't get talked about a lot, which is they are also in a market that people want to go to. And I think what they're doing really well is building a team of really good role players or second and third like options through Andrew Wiggins, through Tyler Hero, through Javi Jaquez. And then you have people come in later who are going to be free agents who could play like a big role on the team. And they come and pitch like, you get to live in South Beach, like you get to live the Miami lifestyle. Also, like we already have a team pretty much made for you. You get to be the superstar. And so either that or they get some good picks in the draft. I don't know, either way, but I do think Pat Riley obviously is very smart. And I think that there is like a master plan there that we might not see yet, but I do think that Miami has the luxury of being a landing spot that, unlike the Lakers, doesn't have like all of this baggage of like the teams always being watched no matter how they're doing. Unlike the Knicks, it's not like they're perennial losers. And so like they're the Heat, like they are good enough and they have a nice lifestyle and you don't have to pay income tax. Like I just think that there's a good pitch there. And I also said,
Absolutely.
yeah, and so and I want to be the Heat's GM, so my audition there.
Yeah. Hey, Pat, you got to start a succession plan now,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I do think that the Heat have a lot going for them. One thing I wanted to mention actually was the 5-team trade reminds me, there's this thing I saw about the Jazz being involved in every trade, but never being like an actual supporting or actual like main player. It's like when I helped move furniture, and there was like a funny meme where there was 2 guys like actually lifting the furniture and this other guy was just like spotting them and like running around. They're like, this is the Jazz. And that's like these 5-team trades. I'm sure the Jazz were also involved in that 5-team trade somewhere.
I think you are right, which is hilarious. Yeah, the Jazz were involved in like every like multi-team trade. I think you are, not even as a joke. I think that is true, because like the Jazz, Okay, they weren't involved in the Kuzma 14 trade. That might be it, but like it's
That one.
the apparently the Jazz didn't even know because the Luca trade was a three team trade. They didn't even know Luca and AD were a part of it till like an hour before, which like shows you exactly the person who's moving. Like, what are we doing? Sure, I'll bring the beer and pizza. Like that's what the Jazz were.
Exactly.
Yes. But
So
one
sorry.
trade I did want to mention was the De'Aaron Fox trade. I think this one
Cool.
also,
I was like, there are two trades I want to talk about, and that was one of them. So yeah, the De'Aaron Fox trade.
that I think is a great trade. Yeah, I think it helps the Spurs a lot. That was another team that like maybe should have made it to the honorable mentions. Like they're young though, and I think they have a ton of upside. And De'Aaron Fox, like it's very interesting because he's very young, but somehow he's still like a veteran compared to Wemby. And so I think he's gonna play well with Wemby. And I think that like with Chris Paul there to like kind of guide them, and Chris Paul's probably gonna retire soon, but like to guide them until he retires. I think this is like a great trade for the Spurs. And I don't remember what they gave up because I know Zach LaVine went from the Bulls, so I don't know what the Spurs sent to the Bulls, but oh, do you have it?
Yeah, so I'll pull it up here. So yeah, I have like a list of all the trades. So the Spurs got De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings received, and there's a lot of picks. So they received Zach LaVine and City Kisko. Sorry, City if I'm saying that wrong. And then they got a 2025 first from the Hornets, which like that's gonna be a great pick. Then you have a 2027 Spurs first round pick, a first round pick from the Timberwolves in 2031, and then 3 second round picks: 2025 from the Bulls, 2028 from the Nuggets, and 2028 from the Bulls as well. What's funny is these 6 picks, they're from 5 different teams, so you're really spreading your shotgun barrel approach wide, which for drafts I think is awesome. And that's all except for the 2031. That's all before 2028, which is actually pretty soon to get a lot of those draft picks.
Yes.
And then the Bulls get Zach Collins, Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, and they got a first round pick via the Spurs. So I think the Spurs ended up giving up like 3 first round picks and like or 4, something like that. This felt like the most, even though there was also big players, this felt like the most like kind of trade you expected going into the deadline.
Yeah.
And, like Zach LaVine has been supposedly going to be traded for multiple times, and then like the vibes in the Kings this year. I want to like at the end of this year, I want to like relook at the Kings season because that's what the seasons for the Kings has confused me because it was like I thought everything was good, and then they fired Mike Brown, kind of like. The vibes were bad. Like coaches were pissed off in the league, which normally you don't see coaches like Kevin, like not Kevin Malone. That's an Office character. Mike Malone from like the Nuggets, like totally shit on like the decision for the Kings to do that, and it was like, okay, there's some coach solidarity that you don't normally see. So I wonder what went down, but it felt like from what I heard was that you got rid of Mike Brown because there are issues with him and De'Aaron Fox, which then doesn't make sense of why are you trading De'Aaron Fox away. So like I just need to know something. And also like there's like rumors coming out that like Fox's exit from the Spurs has been very like it's created a lot of toxicity between the Spurs players and him, like Monk, and I don't know how true these things are. Yeah, sorry, the Kings. Yeah, I misspoke. No, the Spurs vibes are good for Fox. But yeah, so it just like feels weird, especially Fox is super, to my knowledge, unproblematic. So it seems weird that he's being called basically a snake by like former teammates. Like that's surprising. I do think what that means is I think Fox this year for the Spurs, and I think we saw it in the first couple of games, is like I think he's gonna push a little too hard, and. I think Fox is the best. Like in the fourth quarter when he was, clutch player of the year, he pushed hard, but he was like, he knew when to. So I'm just worried that he's going to push a little too hard. I think for me, the Spurs, the reason they weren't an honorable mention is they're just so far down in the standings right now that like I could make them an honorable mention and it'd be like a power ranking kind of thing, which I think is fine. But in my head, if I'm doing playoffs, I'm like, I don't know if they're going to make it there. So it's just because every team above them is competing. So like, that's the thing. You have 12 teams genuinely competing in the West. And
that's true.
So that's for me why the Spurs weren't there. But I think next year, oh gosh, like I think the Spurs, like, you have to sell who's really good. Of course you have Wemby. I just also need the Spurs players just throw the ball up near the basket and he's there. Like the amount of times I'm like, Wemby's there, just throw it. It's not that complicated. You have the tallest guy ever. Just throw it up there.
It's so true.
I get so mad. Funny. It was so bad last year. This year it's a little bit better because Wendy's purposely on the perimeter a lot. But last year it was just like Do you not
What?
realize you have like what is considered the best like talent as a draft pick ever, and you're just ignoring him on offense? Like, what is
Yeah,
that going on? But
it is
anyways, yeah,
insane. Yeah, I agree. And I also think on the Kings side of this, I've always been a fan of the Kings because they're kind of like the Clippers in terms of they kind of fly under the radar in
yeah,
California.
yeah. No, and
Um,
I've had a soft spot for the Kings too for similar reasons. Of like,
yeah,
I want to root for them.
exactly.
I like Fox. I like Monk. I like a lot. I like
You like
Sabonis. He's really
Sabonis, yeah.
good.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me is like Sabonis is so good and people do not talk about Sabonis. Like last year he was on my fantasy team and weirdly enough, like it was the 11th pick or something in the draft and I got second place and I think it was largely because of Sabonis, like just
Yeah,
knocking it out of the park. He's so good. And that was also surprising to me because him and De'Aaron Fox I thought had a good
chemistry.
relationship leading up to this year and now I don't know what's going on. But I would like to see, I want to see Zach LaVine do well. I want to see Zach LaVine do well with Monk and Sabonis. So I do think that the Kings like quietly have a kind of like built up a good couple five next years for themselves. People aren't going to talk about it because people don't talk about Sacramento, but like it is. I actually think they're in a better position than what a lot of people would put them in.
Yeah, and they also got, we mentioned earlier. Oh my gosh, Laravia. They also got
No.
Fallon. They got a big. So there are like four trades during this trade, and I'm so sorry to European people, and I am a European person. There was like three or four just old European white centers who were just traded, and I don't know who. And like Nurkic is at the Hornets, like.
Oh
So I
yeah.
apologize. We probably could talk about those trades, but they weren't pushing the needle as much as some of these other trades. But yeah, I think this Fox one is a big one, and I think the Kings
Okay.
are actually set up fairly well. They have a lot of draft compensation, especially
Okay.
if the Spurs take a little bit. And like I mentioned, it's from 5 different teams, so you just get one of those teams to really suck, and you can get a lot of hope. And I think it's super interesting that DeRozan and Levine are back together again.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me because from what I understood, which I recently maybe understood is wrong, is that they had a lot of tension with each other because like of the way they played styles. But I
Yeah.
saw a quote from DeRozan when Levine was traded that he was like, "Oh, that's my guy. Like we lived together. Like he stayed in my place." So it gave me different energy than maybe I
Oh,
thought. Maybe it started that way, but like
yeah.
clearly I don't think you do this trade with DeRozan, who you brought in, if he's not okay
Yeah.
with getting Levine as a teammate, given the context. And so I just think it's super interesting. Levine's been pushing a little too hard his first couple of games. I know that because I have him in my dynasty league that I mentioned. So I'm like Kuzma. I mean, not Kuzma. He was playing like Kuzma. I was like, come on, Levine, stop it. I was looking
Yeah.
up at the Bucks trade. The last trade I want to, if it's okay to move on from the Spurs
Okay.
trade, unless there's anything else you want to say, is the trade that didn't happen.
Okay.
The Mark Williams, Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish trade. And I think it's just interesting to talk about because this goes beyond, I think, just trades. It goes like basketball stuff. So if you're unfamiliar, this trade was supposed to happen and then out of nowhere, it's rescinded. Lakers are saying they found some medical issues on Mark Williams. A lot of Hornets fans, because I've been in the Hornets subreddit, real mad at the Lakers right now. They want an investigation. They think the Lakers got cold feet. They think that a lot of BS is happening. As a Lakers fan, it's tough for me to be unbiased about it because I can't imagine a world where we are trying to compete this year, where if Mark Williams is at all fine, like
Yeah.
we take him on. We need a center. You know what I mean? Like we really do need a center. But it seems like there's a big PR like back and forth. Like early on, the Lakers were like, "Oh, they came out to us," and then I don't know if you saw the Hornets posted like a official like welcome back to Mark Williams, and it was one of the most unhinged things I've ever seen a organization post. They were like, after being aggressively pursued by quote the other team, they didn't even drop the Lakers name. They just said the other team. I'm like, that's unhinged. Like that just like
Oh my
so
gosh.
aggressive. And here's the problem. Maybe the Lakers did something funky. I'm not saying that couldn't have happened. I just don't understand. Like everyone's like, oh, they gave up a lot. I don't think Cam Reddish is like that huge of a loss. Dalton Connect had one really good game, but we have
Yeah.
Luca. We had like he's redundant. He's like
Yeah.
the third best white shooter on our team. That he's super redundant. You know what I mean? Is like you have
Yeah.
Luca, you have Austin Reeves who got 45 points in the last game. Like you have playmakers. We don't need Dalton. I love Dalton. I was excited we drafted him. A lot of people were mad that we got him because of how far he fell. But it doesn't make sense from me as the Lakers perspective, if you are trying to compete, that you don't take some risk and do this unless something crazy is on that medical report that they were unaware of. But maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe my Laker bias is coloring me, where I'm just like, it doesn't make sense for the Lakers to do this, even if some of these things are being true. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I have never had a high opinion of the Lakers, and honestly, after this trade deadline, my opinion has gone even lower. And the first one's not justified. This is me just not liking the Lakers, and then seeing what they did to get Luka, and I feel like there was a bit of gaslighting that happened there, and like that makes me uncomfortable. But also, it's a business move, so I can't blame them. But there's like the part of me that just like gets the ick when I read about like what they say happened and like what these talks were. Again, I know the Mavs approached the Lakers, so it's not entirely an ick, but like I don't know, the more I read about it, the more it makes me feel not good.
Yeah.
But this one too, like I just did not feel something about it. Again, it's a business decision at the end of the day, and I'm sure you're right. Like I'm sure that or I think what you're saying, like I'm sure there's some reason why they did it, because they weren't giving up a lot technically to get it at the end of the day. I also think it's hilarious to see how fans turn on people. Like they're like, oh my God, Mark Williams, like our savior, like we're the next big three, like blah, blah, blah. And then Mark Williams didn't end up coming through, and they're like, whatever, like we're going to get someone better. And it's like, I guess that's what fans do, but also like Lakers fans are the loudest. And it's like, it's so funny to see that. I think you're right. Like there is no reason for the Lakers to try to compete this season. It's hilarious because they're going to try to compete this season. Like I know LeBron, I know Luka, and I know the Lakers. Like they need to compete to feel like they're, I don't know, they can't sit by and watch. So like they will compete, but they shouldn't compete. And I think what they should do is like try to preserve the health of Luka, preserve the health of LeBron, and like go for it next season and for future seasons. So I actually think like the trade would have, to me, they weren't giving a lot to get like again, like it's a risky player, but also like, was it a risky player? Like, who are you at? You're not giving him Austin Reeves. Like, I think at this point, either you sign someone to free agency, which I don't know how that works with the salaries, or like you have to give up Austin Reeves. Like, I don't see how you don't give up Austin Reeves at this point. And like, he's making a really good case for himself to be traded, honestly, with that game, like that 45-point game. Because at the end of the day, like if he had done that pre-Luka, I would have been like, Austin Reeves, franchise player. Now, like cool, but like Luka's there, so like is Austin Reeves going to be the franchise player? No, like he's not.
Yeah.
And I honestly think like if he does get traded in the next year or two and he keeps playing like this, he's going to demand a trade, because like he should, like if he keeps playing like this, he should be the top player on a team. Sorry, like the Hornets. But like yeah, I do think that he is very good. So all in all, I'll say this trade was, I would love to see what actually happened, because this is so weird. Like, are they allowed, like, I didn't know they were allowed to do that. Why did it take so long for them to do that? Like, did they not do a physical before they agreed to the trade? Or like, I don't know too much about that part, but like, how did it take 2 or 3 days for them to go back on the trade, not just one day? So there's like parts of it that I'm like, this is fishy. And in addition to the weird fishy like Luka trade, I just am confused about what's happening here. And like quite candidly, like what the commissioner is allowing in this league, because I don't think that this is a good look. To would they have let any other team do this? Like I would love to understand that too.
Yeah, and like and that's where I think what I brought up, this leads to a bigger conversation about like Laker. I don't know if it's Lakers favoritism, which could be part of the conversation, but I think you're hitting the point of like, what should the commissioner be doing? Is like with like the Luka trade, is like I don't think the Lakers did anything shady. I think for that trade, I think just like I think the more I'm diving down the weeds in it, I think it came from people above, just get Luka out. We want to cut costs everywhere. We're not doing the Supermax. I think there's a lot of that weird stuff. And Nico's like, okay, I'm already friends with Rob Pelinka. And that's the shady part. But I think the shadiness, again, is like not the Lakers' fault. Like if I'm Rob Pelinka and like someone tells me, hey, you just need to not talk to anyone and we'll give you Luka Doncic. Like Rob has to do that, right? Like I think he kind of has to. But then again, like fired Nico. Like all the Mavs hate, I think, is, some of that, like a lot of that is justified. It's a tone deaf move, especially like ownership said, like after the fact, like the quote from yesterday or the day before made me so mad for Luka, where they're like, oh, the greats like Kobe and Shaq and Michael Jordan gave 100% every day and never quit. And I was just like, why would you include Shaq in that quote? Like, you don't know ball if you're including Shaq in that quote. I know I have Shaq Duncan right here, but like, I could tell you that dude, he played himself into shape halfway through the season. Like he didn't have the same energy as like Michael Jordan or Kobe. So it was just kind of weird to be like, you showed you didn't know ball when you said that comment, at least to me. But yeah, I think with this trade, it's weird as like, I'm a Lakers fan. So of course, like I have biases and But I go onto the Hornets subreddit not to comment or talk shit because that's messed up, but just to understand a perspective that's different than mine. A lot of them, understandably, are very, very frustrated. But
Yeah,
again, like my thing for me is like, why, like, if none of this is true, my question for Hornets fans is why would you trade away Mark Williams, right? Like
right,
if
yeah.
he's so good and like again, like I'm saying it's weird to me after this trade happened, a lot of, Hornets fans were saying like they fleeced the Lakers, which again confused me because I don't think the Lakers gave up that much. And sure, we gave away a 2031 first, but that doesn't feel as stressful to do when you have Luka, right? That's like we're
Yeah.
talking about a 31-year-old Luka that season, right? So like assuming Luka's going to continue to do Luka things, which of course the Lakers are going to think, we're not going to think that's a high pick. So like what we're giving up
No.
Cam Reddish, who like every time he's on the basketball court, like I get stressed and like and yeah, I have anxiety. Dalton Connect, who minus 1 or 2 games has actually not been that great for the Lakers, and a pick that's maybe hopefully for the Lakers at least a playoff pick, 5 years from now. So it just feels, but it feels weird that this happened so late. Like you said, why wasn't it happening sooner? I know
Yeah.
Lakers said like the deal came together quick. They weren't planning on it. The Hornets called, and so things happened before the physical. But I'm with you. I would like an investigation.
Yeah.
I don't know if it happens.
I doubt it, yeah.
And that's like, and the problem is now if it happens and let's just say the Lakers are cleared, like will people believe it, right? Will they trust
No.
it, or does it look like Adam Silver again is trying to help these big market teams? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that's where it's tough for me as a Lakers fan, where it's like, there could be some sketchiness, but again, I don't know if like it's coming from the Lakers or like the league is creating / enabling it. And then it feels like we should be placing the blame on Adam Silver more than these, but maybe that's just me as a Lakers fan trying to protect the franchise that I love, I
Yeah.
don't know.
And I think in general, it is true, like both with the Mavs trade and with the Hornets trade. I don't know if the Hornets went to the Lakers or not. That part, like I don't know, but like
Yeah.
I know the Mavs did. To me, it's just weird. I guess me not being there, maybe the GMs are that dumb that they would take like pretty bad, like just 80. What I think that easily the Mavs could have gone 80 in Austin Reeves for Luka. Like I'm interested to see, and like there's a part of me, I don't know if it's just coming from like the small amount of business sense that I have, that I'm just kind of like something feels off, and that's why like I do put it on the Mavs a bit, but I do put it on the Lakers a lot, and I do put it on the league a lot. And I think the problem with putting so much like stock in the Lakers doing well is, I'm gonna be honest, like you're an actual Lakers fan, but like this city is like not a basketball city. Like yeah, people like the Lakers, but like it's not the same as people liking the Celtics, or honestly like the people liking the Mavs. Like that is an actual fan base, and it's kind of like how when the Warriors moved to San Francisco, like there was a change in scenery, kind of like that's how I feel with the Lakers too, and that's where I think the league is making an interesting and I think questionable business decision. Is like, if you are favoriting the Lakers, why? Because I don't actually think, besides LA being a huge media market, to me, like New York's a bigger media market. So like why? New York fans are more loyal, and actually I've been in both cities, like I've seen this, like actually understand ball more than like most. Like again, you do, I know some that do, but like on average, like people in LA don't understand basketball like people in New York do. And so I just think like taking a gamble, and also like, why don't you champion like these mid and small market teams, like instead of trying to like turn the odds against them? Again, now I don't know, because there's all this stuff about the Mavs owners like also having their own agenda. So like that Mavs trade, as much as I get the ache, I get it from both sides, and I get it from the league too. From the Hornets trade, I'm just confused, because like I don't know how the Hornets would have been like I don't know, like there's something weird going on both sides, and I don't know why they were so ready to trade for. Again, maybe the GM is really not smart enough, which again, hello, I'm available.
Rashi is right here, NBA. Get it together. Yeah.
I will do a bet. I can get you Austin Reeves if that's what you want. But like, maybe they got confused between Dalton and Austin. I don't know. But
Yeah, they're like, which one's Charmander? Which one's Charizard? They're like, I don't know.
Which
Or
one
Charmander
exactly.
and Charmeleon, yeah. Because
Yes,
there's the meme
exactly.
of like Charmeleon, Charizard. It is the Luca. It's the Dalton Connect, Austin Reeves to Luca pipeline. So
Exactly. So I there is something weird, but I as much as I want to pin on the Lakers, I would say would not be so quick to do that. And also would like just question the league in general, because like ratings across sports right now are falling, and I think it's because of the transition from like cable to streaming. But you need to do more to engage fans, and like just choosing one market to engage fans or trying to get everyone to support this one team is like not the way to do it. It's better to try to like space it out a bit. And the last thing I will say about this is, to me, like LA is full of distractions. Like people go to Lakers games, but like that's not really like a ritual or like something that
Yeah.
people try to do often. They go to one game a year. The Nuggets or like in Denver or like the Mavericks in Dallas, like this is like a main attraction in these cities. Like I feel like you can, maybe you can't make more money, but you can definitely increase revenue. And like on the business side of things, you'll see more success if you focus on the small market teams too, because you might actually start to see more, I guess, ROI on doing that.
Yeah. No, I do agree. I know I'm a Lakers fan. I live in LA, but you're right. Like a lot of people in LA watch basketball, right? Where it's like they see the stats, they don't actually really watch the games. And I think you're also speaking to like regardless, like I think with the Warriors is a great example of like the clientele they're trying to get into basketball games are people who are high paying, but not necessarily basketball fans. And that's what makes me icky about the Mavs owners is that it feels very much oh, we own casinos. We've been trying for years to get gambling legalized in Texas. Oh, like we're about to have a huge TV deal, which means all teams get the same amount of profit from the TV deal. So if we just cut money and like the thing about Supermaxes, which is like unfortunate, is like the Supermax makes the team pay more than any other team. And like that's a good thing for the players, but that means in this situation, if you cheap owners, they're like literally we could sign any other max player and it'll be $100 million cheaper than signing Luka because he gets the Supermax, which again I think is disgusting that you would do that with your franchise player. And also like cause him to lose $100 million is super messed up. But again, that's where I think you get this like weird money. And I'm with you is like, what is the actual ROI of like, okay, we legalize sports gambling everywhere and like everyone's like, I just don't know what the end game is when you're pushing away real fans. Cause like, it's tough for me. I like sports betting. I think it's fun, but I think it's brought in a certain group of people who are not interested in the sport at all. And I feels like those are the kinds of folks that are being catered to with a lot of these decisions. And that just makes me concerned of like, to your point, like there aren't as many Lakers fans, but the ones that are diehard Lakers fans, we're not at the games because we can't afford it, right? Or we're going to one exactly for the reasons that you talk about. And so LA, we have a lot of distraction. I have a lot of, when people talk about sports in LA, I have a lot of thoughts because most people who have thoughts about sports in LA are people who've never been to the city or don't. It's like, no, we're a huge sports city, but it's about specific, like someone will love the Dodgers, someone will love the Lakers, someone will love this. And a lot of people who are transplants will love the team that they came from, right? And so there's a lot of sports fans, probably numerically more than most cities just because we're so big, but percentage-wise it's lower because there's so many things to do. And so it's like you have a lot of diehard fans, but you don't see them as much. And that's the problem is like the fans you see are like the vapid, I'm here because of TikTok or Instagram and they don't know ball,
And I mean, it is the real fans get priced out. And then you have I've seen so many pictures of people going to a Lakers game. And these people have paid hundreds of dollars to go to a mediocre game because they didn't know any better. They have a little like Lakers hat on, the tag still on the back. And they're just like, go Lakers, like bleed like purple and gold. And I'm like, what are you doing? And it is true, like those are the people that A, have the money, and B, then make it possible for no one else to go watch the games except for other people like them. And there was a famous quote about this in a movie where it was commenting on the fact that I'll bring it up another time, but it's like commenting on the fact that like Lakers fans like to show up, but they don't know anything about ball. And it is true. And I think that's the thing is like, if you ask ChatGPT, like, what are the biggest sports cities, like, LA will show up as one of the top, I think, 3 or something like that. I haven't done it, but top 3 or 5. But the problem is, like, then you come here and you realize, like, there's a lot of sports teams here, but, like, I wouldn't call it a sports city after living and visiting, like, actual sports cities.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of fans. I think there's a lot of people that want it to be more of a sports city, but it isn't totally. And then the people who are like super gung-ho are not the best advocates for it. I think like when I think about when I talked about last episode, like the gaslighting sports fans, it's like that's LA sports fans because they're mad at the rest of the city for not knowing ball, but then they don't want to bring people along to know ball. And so everyone's just mad at each other.
That's very true. And then I think Yeah, I think there's a lot of thoughts here. That's honestly a great idea for an episode one day is we will talk about LA sports because I think we could dedicate a whole hour to that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I have lots of thoughts, both good and bad. But there's more good than I think people outside of LA would expect. But of course, we've hit it at some of the bad of just like
I
it's
agree.
it's very showy.
It is, which is true to LA, but yes, that's very true. But
Yeah.
yeah, this trade deadline has been crazy, crazier than I would have expected it to be.
For sure. I was not expecting as many. I mean, of course, like, again, I wish the final trade was the Luca trade just because, like, in terms of, like, escalation and theater, in terms of, like, liking storylines, that would have been great. You know, the
Yeah.
fact it happened and other big trades happened. But I think in some ways that's kind of nice that there's the Luca distraction because people will kind of forget about the other trades. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but I think then people will be really surprised when you see these other like, oh, when Fox starts getting it together, or like Kuzma has his first big game for the Bucks. Like I think those are the cool moments in basketball when you see like, Zach
Agree.
LaVine makes his first game winner and you're like, yeah, like that those moments will be really cool to see in the next few months.
And you go, oh, I didn't know they were on the team. Oh, it's because the Luka trade was distracting me.
Yeah, exactly. And then my fiance will be like, "How did you not know this happened on this date at this time?" And like,
Yeah.
this.
It's so true. But yeah, I am excited to see what happens after the All-Star break because I feel like that's when a lot of teams like get into the top gear.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Rashi, for potting with me. It's
course.
been
Thank you.
I know a long episode, but there's a lot to talk about, especially post trade deadline. And for all of you who are listening, I'm sure as we start doing more of these and some of our general thoughts get more put into the ether, these episodes will get shorter. But we just have a lot of things to say starting off. So and it's been a crazy season, so we're just trying to catch up with that. But yeah, there were so many trades could have warranted their own like 15-20 minute episode of a podcast that, I think talking about all the trades and ranking the teams pretty much, an hour 15 is not so bad.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Thank you all for listening. And yeah, Bobby, this was a lot of fun. Can't wait to talk after the All-Star break.
Yes. Woo!
Yay. Oh, sorry, I did